Hey folks, it's Bear Gardener, and we're headed into the weekend. So, as of recording, this is the Friday after the drop of the new Air Supremacy expansion in Cards, and I wanted to go into the weekend with the deck tech, because I thought it'd be fun, drop one on a Friday night. So, some of you will have seen me on stream playing this thing. I have been messing around with a Soviet air deck, and we're going to chat about it. First of all, obviously, I am a Cards content creator. You can find all the things down below. Like, subscribe, support, all of those things make a huge difference. I'm back a little bit more active. Life is not easy at the moment. I'm going through a lot, so all of the support that any of you have sent me, been part of me, has been amazing. Please keep doing it, makes a huge difference, and I will keep trying to get more videos out when and if I can. So, this particular video, we're going to look at a Soviet air deck with US ally that is going to take advantage of a number of the new cards from Air Supremacy. So, I'm just going to hop over and I'll take you through the deck, and then there'll be some gameplay at the end with commentary, so you can see how I play the deck. Right, into my client, into my deck. So, as I jokingly did say that if I had the spare gold and the deck did well, I would polish off the last couple of bits in this deck that weren't gold cards that I already had as gold cards and get the gold HQ ping, and the deck got me top 400 quite comfortably and then kept climbing, and then I went off a bit because I just couldn't play for a while and I dropped. But I can't argue with the deck, and it's done well, so I polished off some extra gold. So yes, the deck is all in gold because it could be, and it was a bit of fun. This is not something I highly recommend anyone doing, because obviously you probably have better things to spend your resources on than blinging out a deck. Have a bunch of spare gold, at which point go nuts, because it is fun, and I do like the little extra HQ ping from the gold HQ. If you want to know about that, you can go check Kards' website and stuff. I did some videos and promos for them on it. But let's talk about the deck. So this is a Soviet main air deck with US ally. The heart of this deck is some of the new cards from expansion. In particular, we are loving Out with the Old. So this is the new Soviet order, which is trigger the destruction effect on a damaged Soviet air unit and then convert it into a Yak-9. The Yak-9, of course, is the 4/5 Soviet fighter that has destruction, draw a random Soviet card. And that's interesting because that means that we get a convert of a card that's already damaged, which may already have a destruction effect, which we trigger, into a card that has a destruction effect, which we can trigger to make it back into itself, which you will actually see happen in some of the games with this. There are going to be times at which your Yak-9 gets damaged down, and then you play Out with the Old on the Yak-9 that you got from Out with the Old to get another Yak-9 and draw a card. This deck can do some very silly things. It's a lot of fun. The other card that we are loving in this deck is Little Cobra. This is our big hitter. So Little Cobra is the new 4/5 Blitz fighter that has the downside deployment, destroy another random friendly unit. Now, we've got some friendly units we don't mind being destroyed. We've got some friendly units that have destruction effects that we don't mind triggering, but we also have 336 Guards Naval. This, if you have Little Cobra in hand, donkulous, because for 6 credits, you can put down Guards Naval, get Cobra off of Guards Naval without the downside, and then blitz it forward. I mean, there are many other things that we can also get off Guards Naval. You'll notice the answer of things we can get off Guards Naval is everything in our deck. But it's quite important. We are playing around with the Aleutian IL-10. Is this a necessary include? Honestly, probably not, because not that many of our ground units are amazing. In fact, we don't run that many. But it has good stats, and it would have felt harsh if I wasn't using the the Soviet package, because I'm using the whole Soviet package. I'm also using some of the package from US. So we have Seahawk. We have both copies of Seahawk in here because this card is cracked. So while Seahawk is on the board, enemy cards deal 1 less damage. Right, for clarity, enemy cards is everything. This literally turns off Crossfire. This literally turns off Starby Regiment. This literally turns off IGN. This thing is insane. And it also means that all of the enemy's units do 1 less damage. Yes, really. This thing's crackers, and another one of the things that we absolutely adore getting off the Guards Naval. Because then we run 3 of them. So we're running that. Now, there are a few things that are in here, so let's start with the actual. So those are the things that we're showcasing, but the meat of the deck, early on, we want 99th Column on the board. This is just a good body early on. We want to make sure that we try and keep the front line so that we have it available on turn 3. Get to that in a reason why. We also have 97th Rifles, because this is just not a bad 1-drop. It has a destruction effect if it gets hit by a Little Cobra or something similar, and it also gets us access to draw through its continuous cycling. Out with the Old we've talked about. We have Bloody Sickle. This is obviously going to be a major draw tool for us, and we have plenty of things that we don't mind damaging down because we're eventually going to proc their destruction effects anyway, which means we can fling Bloody Sickle onto our own units to draw cards until we get out with the Old, then we out with the Old the card to get the change on it. Just great. We have 2 copies of For Freedom, because this is still one of the best cards in the game, period. 1 cost, +1/+1, draw a card. What more do you want? It's simple. It's not flashy, but it is incredibly strong. We have 4 copies of Rush. This is our other piece of big early removal. Again, we don't care about damaging our own units, so we're fine. 3 copies of Claim the Skies. Once again, we have plenty of aircraft that are going to be on the board. We don't mind them fighting and taking some damage, because eventually we're going to be happy triggering them with various other things. I-15 Chaika. So this, obviously, this is the moment of glory that you sort of want to look for. As this comes down, you get to drop something like Rush on it that does 4 damage to an enemy unit, which removes it. Then you get to swing at face with this, doing 1 damage to face. Then you get to drop Little Cobra, swinging for face, and triggering this to get the Ishak. It's not going to happen that often, but when it does, it's going to feel really good. But you can also hit it with Out with the Old, turning it into a 4/5, which gets you the Chaika. So this thing, you can put it down, rush something to take it off the board, drop Out with the Old, at which point it is your remaining 1/1 is destroyed, but that's okay because you get a 2/2 fighter and a 4/5 fighter. Doesn't suck. Yak 7, it's just draw. It's in any Soviet air deck, really, because it's just a way of getting draw. Yes, it damages your HQ, which can be an issue against burn, but really, using burn, it's a problem. Night Witches is just me having fun. This is not strictly necessary, but the Polycarpovs getting us from the people can be really annoying for our opponent to deal with and give us some extra removal. Plus, it's Night Witches. It's just fun. Little Cobra, obviously. We have 2 copies. I only run 2. If I was going to get rid of Night Witches, it would probably be for... not quite sure what I'd run in for Night Witches, because we are topped out on Americans. If I could get another copy of this in, I would. So this is show when draw a random air unit from your deck. Most of our deck is air unit, and we always want to see them. And we want draw. Plus, our air units get +1/+1, so this can be pretty much a win condition for us. Illusion, we've talked about. Seahawk, we've talked about. Grum and Goose. This thing's really good at the moment for a number of reasons. Firstly, it gives us draw, which we don't really have. Secondly, possibly more importantly, the fact that it's covert makes it kind of immune to certain really annoying things that are out there at the minute. So I would definitely rate this well. And honestly, it may feel awkward to use, but quite often you will draw 2, 3, or more cards off this if you play it well. Air cover, absolutely central to this deck. This is why we want the front line on turn 3. So we're just going to print boosters. Keep our opponent under pressure, gives us a ton of targets, all of which we don't mind being destroyed by our other effects. Gives us constant bodies, all of which can be buffed by strike group. Absolutely fantastic. And finally, of course, 336 Guards Naval. The curve on the deck looks a bit funky because we've got a lot of orders and not many units, but it won't feel like it once you get it going. Just need to mulligan aggressively to make sure that you've got some early body, which you'll see me doing repeatedly in the gameplay. This is legitimately the most fun I've had on a Soviet main deck in a very long time. It's been a long time since there has been a relatively just kind of fun, aggressive Soviet deck that I personally have enjoyed. I know we did get Soviet Japan aggro, but I wasn't a fan of it. The fact that this is an air deck and lets you use so many of these interesting new cards, like I just love the fact that this is a chance to use a lot of Air Supremacy. I think it's a lot of fun. It's not necessarily the best build of the best deck anywhere. You can probably tweak this. And it does, I mean, you are running a reasonable number of elites and specials, but as I say, some of these you could remove, like Night Witches isn't critical, 97th Rifles isn't critical. You could replace those with just other good Soviet or removal. And like the Illusion, also definitely not critical. Like 336 Guards is by far the elite that matters here. If you've got 336 Guards, then you can fiddle the rest of the deck and substitute any number of things in. Looking at substitutes, if we switch to Soviets, you're down to just having one. I mean, you're going to get some convert going. You could try 51st. I wouldn't necessarily, but I mean, there is a synergy there, and it is a 1-drop. You could also just run the 89th to give you an early guard if you wanted it, which is not a terrible way to do things. You'd even run Polikarpov, although I wouldn't. I did try it early just for the air synergy for some extra 1-drops, but honestly, it's not worth it in the long run. But if you have nothing else, not a terrible idea. If you have things like Zukov, you could sub this in, but please note, the advantage of it is you know what you're going to hit. You're almost always going to have to hit the 336, which means you could get it when you want to, but it doesn't mean you brick a lot, so I personally wouldn't run it. Any of the other just good value stuff, there is the, there we are, there's the 676th, because we have various ways that dealing damage, so buffing this is not bad as a blitz unit. Of course, 845th, never a bad one to throw in as well. These are all things that you could throw in, and then obviously you can have a look at the various Soviet air units and see if there's anything that, you know, takes your fancy. I've seen people run Catalina in this just for the stats. I'm not convinced, but you can try it. Seen Petliakov being run just for the irritation, and that's probably more convincing to me. You could obviously consider the Yak 9 just as a blitz unit. The Polish version, not the actual Yak 9, by the way. This is the Polish Yak 9. But again, I wouldn't necessarily go that hard. And honestly, you could run the Illusion IL too. It's very expensive for what it does, but if you don't have some of the other stuff, it gives you another way of putting a unit from your hand onto the board. So there are definitely options out there that you can play around with as substitutes, which is all to the good. However, rather than waffling on endlessly, I'm just going to let you go now. You can watch some gameplay, see how it goes on. Code's down below. Let me know what you think. If you have success with it, let me know in the comments. If you have questions, you can always reach out and ask me. Join my Discord, like, follow, subscribe. I'm always available. As ever, stay well, be good humans, and I'll see you next time. Okay, so what do we have? We have USA. Okay. So, be any number of things, but it's possibly going to be Brewsters. Cobra's too early, Seahawks too early, but we'll always keep air cover. Colm, we're definitely happy to see. His Colm is kind of our ideal turn one. Just gives us presence on the board, which is what we want. Hold that presence on the board, then we'll be able to do something with it. Just wait for our opponent to connect. And here we go. So really early on, we just play this sort of like an aggro deck. And we're waiting to leverage our better tools later. We just want to make sure we have access, ideally, front line on turn 3. And Brewsters available, so we want to have air cover in hand. Grumman's good. Grumman means we can start moving towards being able to get some card draw, which is something that we will struggle for. So we have to work for our card draw in this deck. That has a weakness. Probably its biggest one. What our opponent has for us. Okay, so we're ramping. This actually bodes well for us. So one of the great advantages here is we can air cover. And we obviously can still operate our column. In a perfect world, next turn, we'd like to get the Grumman down, do 4 damage to face, because then the turn after we start proccing draw. But we'll wait and see where our opponent does. It depends on whether they've got any removal, which they're sort of going to try for. So we do still want to get the Grumman down, but we're just going to use Rush to answer. The Rush is one of those great early pieces of removal for us. Just lets us answer things like Calliope really efficiently. A few good men's fine, so our opponent's kind of digging for US Elite. Usually that's a sign that we're in a good. If your opponent's digging, they're not winning. So, get Chaika, which we will probably play, but we'll see what we draw first. Ooh, so Strike Group. But Strike Group's a little bit weak right now. More fighters on the board. Okay, so we get more fighters. Okay, so Strike Group's now basically lethal. We're lethal on board, and Strike Group just makes lethal more lethal. So they're looking for a board clear, or a guard, or a big pile of heal. None of the above, so first one. So Colm's good, out with the old, and claim. It's not perfect, but we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it because we have cards that we can play in the early game. Yak 7's not terrible because it starts getting us draw, and with claim, we do have a way of damaging it kind of at will, which then allows us to get rid of it with the old. Which is important because we are going to want to do so. Illusion, I mean, once we've lost the calm, which will happen eventually, Illusion becomes a lot more relevant. Right, so our opponent went to trade out one of their strongest buffs to try and clear a calm. I'm kind of okay with that. They're going to... Okay, so they go face, which is fine. So we can use claim here, which lets us deal the damage. We can then remove this and get 2 2/2s with some draw on the board. So far, Right, so Pathfinders. This is interesting. This is a sort of frontline variant, which I'm here for. I'm absolutely here for a frontline variant. No, I'm 100% here for a frontline variant. Oh, we lose the Seahawk. That's a little frustrating, but that's okay. We can deal with it. I would have liked to have done this the other way on. Few things we'd like to see now. Calm is definitely top of the list, because Calm lets us pull off the trick that we really want to pull. And we can put an Illusion down. We're not going to drop the Seahawk yet, because we want to get rid of our friend the Sherman, because he'll still do 3 damage. And my buff's okay. M10 mutes the Illusion, which actually is probably the least optimal thing to have muted on our board. Not that our opponent is able to know this. Get to do this, and our damaged 1 recovers itself, draws us a card, and becomes a 4/5 again. This is the power of Out with the Old. Verbal Wind. I mean, if we weren't in such a strong position, Verbal Wind would be a very good play. We draw first, in case we get lucky, which we kind of sort of don't. But okay, so this survives. Striker comes down, and we can afford to lose it to clear the Verbal Wind. Don't mind that the Triker's pinned, because we fix that next turn. Once again, have lethal on board. Strat bombing is the most likely thing that we'd see. Scout car is not going to be enough. There's strat bombing as expected. And that does give us a 2/2. And air cover gives us a way of using that 2/2. So what we're going to do is drop air cover early. We're not actually going to worry about scout car. It can't do anything helpful. They've already fired their big bomb, so they're done, which is fair. We'll see what we get next. Germany. Okay, so a bit of variation. We like Chaika with Claim and Sickle. The other two can go. Trip Sickle is not great. Hence, if this is Burn and we get a good early draw, we can make this a lot better. If it's Ramp, which it is, the situation is even stronger, because we can start creating some pretty good tempo plays early. Our opponents, if our opponent is playing Ramp, they're going to give up a lot of tempo in an attempt to... Okay, Suppression, which is interesting. That gives us... So Suppression is interesting because it makes this a perfect for freedom target. We have Calm. We'll trade out so that our opponent has no board presence. So now we have a damaged Soviet unit, which means we have an on-tap 4/5. Route onto the Calm, which is not necessarily where I'd have put it. And what we'll do is this, and then we'll turn this into a guarded 4/5. Claim should answer most things they're liable to drop. They could capitulate, but this would be a very weak capitulation. It'd be the kind of capitulation that just feels incredibly low value. First we test. And we draw. just in case it's a massive countermeasure. It wasn't, but we played around a couple of countermeasures that might have been an issue. Okay, so that's a very weak capitulation. We're absolutely fine with that. We can put Yak 7 down. Some draw. We've still got most of our toolbox available, and all our opponent can do at the moment is ramp. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage on board. We have only 8 cards in hand, so we'll wait until we're at 9 cards in hand before we need to worry, because we're lethal on board. They have to crossfire, which we knew they were going to do, which is why we've got things like Guards Naval in hand. Henschel's great, because we can draw, which should give us a draft, which it does. And we move it. And then we can just wait, really. So Comet, fine. Oh, trade out, which obviously they're going to do. We have Guards Naval in hand. So this is the really broken combo. So Guards Naval comes down. That means we play Little Cobra with no penalty. Little Cobra costs 2. We have Strike Group, which takes Little Cobra to 5. And we're done. Soviets, so control or a mirror match are both possible. This is actually a really, really starting hand. We've got removal, we've got our preferred turn 1 play, we've got our preferred turn 3 play, and we have a good turn 2 play if we kind of need it, which we hope we don't. So we don't ideally want to play Calm this turn, because it would slow down our access to air cover. Bug life. So a lot of ramp. Fair enough. We're just gonna go. We are in a position whereby we can do a lot of very efficient things, but we just want to have a good number of targets for Strike Group. Right. Take control, but it doesn't do enough damage to do anything useful, so you do destroy it. I think we Strike Group and go for the pressure play. We do have Calm in hand. We've got removal. Illusion doesn't help them. Petliarkov doesn't help them. So we do have some advantages here. Don't get the deployment effect. Which is kind of fun. We can claim if we want to, but I don't think we do. We can instead... Could have done that slightly better, if I'm honest. Could have gotten the second Calm without the downside, but it doesn't really matter. If I'd known I was going to play the second Calm, but I wasn't sure whether I was going to want to drop Seahawk. But still a win.